As I always say, it's a good morning when you hear those ditties. I'm not talking about Puff Diddy. All right, that was bad. I admit it. I admit it. But I do get excited. Every morning I get excited when I have the opportunity to do these shows. I would say not just one, but when I do a series of them. I don't get up easily in the morning. I've never been a morning guy. Nope. As they say, no. But when I know I'm going to do a show here in the morning, I seem to just pop out of it. Alarm goes off. I'm like, woo! Let's go. And I spend too much time on the technology behind it and not enough time researching what I need to know. But thankfully, my mind is full of useless facts from paying attention to crypto. And as my girlfriend and wife-to-be, Natasha, says, spends my extra time dojiing. After the first thing I ever taught her was that I was looking at this thing called Dogecoin. So she calls it dojiing. And you end up a couple of days later meeting here on the Monday of the week ahead of you with lots to do. Oh, I forgot to start Twitter. Let's get that started. Oh, I did start it. Let's tweet something on Twitter. And if you're listening, let's tweet that out. And it's live. Striking. Live this morning. Tune in for a discussion. On the crypto news. Let's try and get some viewers, everybody. I know there's only a couple of people listening to us right now, but while these videos go on and get good replays later in life, it's good to have a little conversation in the morning. CZ Binance versus CFTC. Alrighty. Oh, my! See, I fully expect a complete crash here today. Ladies and gentlemen, Pedro Garcia's in the house. See if we can. Oops, that's the wrong one. Let's see if we can get the right button here. There we go. Pedro Garcia, crypto charting analyst. And one of the things that I will not be doing today is crypto charting. But I'm definitely going to... would like you to come on one day this week just to talk about the markets. I wish I would have arranged it for you to have you on today. Monday morning's the ideal time to have someone come on and give a prediction about the market. But if you want to put a few predictions in the comments, what BTC or the market in general is going to do based on whatever your thoughts are, I'll put them up on the screen. I would just have you come on, but I have my system maxed out at 99% CPU because I forgot to reboot it. And getting this thing up and running is a difficult mess. So if I start my guest program, El No Worko, I would expect it to fully bomb on me. That's why I've been hopefully people will be sending me tons of sats with my next announcement. My next announcement, which I forgot to actually put in the comments here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, is that I'm accepting sats now through the Lightning Network. I was thinking about putting a Patreon up and all that kind of stuff, but nope. I need actual subscribers for that. I need people subscribing, and I need a decent viewership in order to float a Patreon out there, or at least enable the YouTube subscription thing, which doesn't really work that well because nobody uses it. YouTube wants to take a ton of money, and Patreon only wants to take a little bit of money. But with Sats, let's see if I can get the old Sat wallet up here. And get that posted in there. Let's see. Receive. Da-da-da. Lightning address. Here we go. Copied. Sorry about the... I always like to have these things ready, but how many times do you not do that? Frail battle 36. Let's see if I can get this on the... Frail battle 36 at wallet of Satoshi.com. Satoshi. Oh, Pedro, I'll get to you in just 1 second here. Let's see, what are the little things in life, like for instance, what font to use to put on your screen here. Let's go with Arial Narrow. There we go. Perfect. Nobody will be able to read that. Now, where did that go? Here we go. No, that's not in the right spot. Put it up here. All right. Let's... for those of you wondering what this is above me here, I've joined the modern world in accepting Bitcoin or Satoshis on the Lightning Network. I joined Nostr, the decentralized version of Twitter that Jack Dorsey started. And it's fabulous. It's fabulous. No censorship. It's based on relays. There's no central server, that type of stuff. And if, like, a good example is I don't speak Chinese. So if you don't want to have your feed filled with Chinese language stuff, you just turn those relays off, and you don't hear that. You don't see their type of stuff, and it doesn't allow people to spam because you only let into your network of who you want to see in your following section, based on who you've interacted with. So if you haven't interacted with a spammer, you don't see this stuff. It's actually kind of nice, and it uses the Lightning Network for payments where you can tip people back and forth. That's the one thing. Well, today's main topic is, as we say, CZ and Binance versus the world, otherwise known as the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. But before we get into that, we've got Pedro Garcia on the line here, and Pedro is my Cinco de Pedro, sometimes guest analyst here, and if you recall, on the intro, it says guest analyst Pedro Garcia as it goes by here. But he wants to know let's just bring it up here. What are your thoughts on the PetroYuan situation? I've actually given this a lot of thought recently and had a discussion with it with someone else the other day, and also wrote about it on LinkedIn a little bit. To summarize it, it's horse crap. It's just not a workable situation. First of all, right now, most people really aren't familiar with the oil industry um, as a whole. Even people that try and pay attention to it aren't that familiar with it because it's vast. It's a vast industry, and it has lots of fingers in every part of the economy. And I got an early introduction to it because I worked on the New York Mercantile Exchange as a youngster. And one of the things there is trading the crude oil. And let's see, crude oil, heating oil, propane, gas, all the crack spreads. When you put the oil in a giant thingamabob, the tall thing that breaks it down into its components, it's called cracking it. And so the spreads that the traders would do between oil and gasoline, which is the same, comes from the same crude oil, but ends up in different things, they would come up with pricing spreads. So they call them crack spreads. At least that's what they did in the late 80s. But anyway, the oil industry is vast, and its fingers into the world economy are vast. And all of the oil business right now is settled in U.S. dollars. It's quoted in U.S. dollars. Shipping, it's pumped in U.S. dollars. The shipping industry is based on U.S. dollars. The whole futures market everywhere is based on the U.S. dollar contract of it. And right now, we see in the news that these just very short-term thinkers are talking about China's play with Russia and other people, saying, okay, we're going to create a new reserve currency around the oil industry, and based on the yuan. I can't pronounce that correctly. Yuan. Which is a fine thing, or maybe a little regionally, or with the Chinese will be able to say we're only going to buy in yuan so they can get their currency made to be more important. But it's not workable, and it's not workable for a myriad of reasons, of which I couldn't possibly go into all of them now. Let's see, Pedro's asking for a link to my profile. On which service, Pedro? Which service? I should put all these things in my YouTube comments, but I don't. So for people to say that the Chinese would be able to step up and say, okay, we're going to supplant the U.S. dollar and make the world trade based on Chinese oil is patently ridiculous. It's not just sort of ridiculous, it's completely ridiculous. And the main reason why is China is an authoritarian government. Nobody trusts authoritarian governments with their money. They may trust them with like tourism things, or putting on nice Formula One races, or building nice buildings, and that type of stuff. But authoritarian governments are not trustworthy unless they've been shown over a long time to be benevolent. A good example is the monarchies of the world. Most of the current leftover monarchies or family dynasties are mostly either benevolent or have a check and balance of a parliament. They seem to work fine. Everyone trusts them with their money. The UAE, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia with all their oil, that type of stuff. What they don't trust is when a leader works his way through the system in a country and changes the rules so he can be lifetime leader. Nobody wants a lifetime job, especially when they're getting rich. There isn't one person that you can find amongst your friends that say, I'm going to be a multi-billionaire and work till the day I die. Maybe Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. I mean, okay, that's different. They're just controlling their own money. They're not controlling anybody else. But in both China and Russia, Turkey, and a number of other countries, they had at one point relative good things going for them. And even though China was a closed economy, when its capitalism was bursting out, which it did, it started in the 90s, and in the late 80s, kind of just started, and then it exploded. And America sent all its money to China to build those big cities. And China became the manufacturing capital of the world. They did a great job. No one argues that at all. They did a great job tricking us because they got our manufacturing. Now they're holding us hostage for it. But anyway, their leader worked his way basically from a poor orphan peasant. At least that's the story. To be leader. And China always only allowed their leaders to have 2 terms, and then the party would elect a new one. And they kind of governed as a group. Let's get this ball rolling, let's keep it going, and all that type of stuff. The current leader said, no. I'm going to take this thing apart here and put in my own rules. And his own rules were change the constitution to allow me to be leader for life. And in Russia, Putin has done pretty much the same thing, and in Turkey, Erdogan has done the same thing. And that means if they want to have the pain and suffering of running a large, kleptocratic, bureaucratic, and corrupt country for life, it means they're making a lot of fat bank on it. That's what's going on. And so there's going to be hesitancy in the world businesses, especially all the world's top oil companies are in the top 100 of the world. I mean, they feed the entire automotive world. They feed the jet flying around the world thing. They feed the whole plastics industry. There's no aspect to your life that isn't affected by the oil industry. Everything you're looking at on your screen here, touching your keyboard, the whole computer industry relies on oil. As much as people want to say we're green and we buy green power, everything there's plastic can only exist with oil. It can't. You just can't. It's impossible. And until we can make everything out of wood particulate, or come up with a new material based out of magic or something, the whole world's still has to rely on the oil industry. So I take these arguments about people talking about China not very seriously. Not very seriously at all. Because they don't have the capacity to do it, because nobody's going to give them their money. They might be able to put the thumb on some people like the Philippines or or Thailand or something like one of the countries in the Southeast Asia thing, and say, all right, you know what, you need to pay us, you need to buy our currency and then pay us for our oil in our own currency and not use dollars. Okay, they might be able to do that. But it's such a small part of the market. It really is. It's such a small part of the market. And at this point, China still has to import oil, too. And even if they join up with Russia, Russia's trusted only about as far as you can. I could probably throw this coffee cup, and that's not very far because my shoulder hurts. So, Pedro, to sum it up, I think it's a bunch of crap. And I don't think it'll get anywhere because there's not a single oil trader. I dare you to find one single oil trader that is not of ethnic Chinese origin, who has a family member in China that has a gun to their head, who so that their distant cousin trading oil in the U.S. Will say, yes, you're right, I'm switching. We even had the president of Kenya 2 days ago making a press conference speech or whatever you call it, saying, dump your dollars, big problems are happening. For what? What are you going to dump your dollars for? Well, I see, you can switch them to euros. It's been pretty stable. But the euro's having trouble just like the dollar. But the president of Kenya, I won't say it's a fact, but it's well known amongst expatriates and people that work in Africa and that most of the leaders of governments in Africa that support China are getting paid. China's Silk Road Initiative, China wants the port of Mombasa, so they're paying, basically bribing everybody. That's how they got the contract to build the rail line from Mombasa to Uganda through Kenya. And thank God they did the traffic in Nairobi, because the British rail line that they built a long time ago was a narrow gauge and old and decrepit, so everything was a truck from Mombasa to Uganda through downtown Nairobi. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, Pedro, that's my thoughts on that. So let's see. Let's before I get into the Binance thing, let's talk about what people are. If anyone's let's get some LinkedIn going here. Welcome everyone. Good morning, crypto. All right, let's find the old tweeter here. Let's see what's going on the Twitter this morning. Now see, I used the DYOR account to tweet that I'm on right now, but I didn't tag myself. Sometimes. As the band James sings, sometimes. Yeah, let's just find it. It really takes a lot of work. Way more than you would think to get the word out that your show is on. Especially when you broadcast to multiple platforms. And I like to broadcast to multiple platforms because I'm trying to get the word out. I don't think that I'm going to get a lot of viewers on Twitter and that type of stuff. But getting the social media filled up and getting practice doing that is good. But man, it takes a lot of work. And you miss one thing and then the word doesn't get out on Twitter. Pedro says, I got you. What's my profile? I will post it for you. Well, it's striking balls. Let's see, it'll come up here. I use Iris. Yeah, come to think of it, I haven't let's see, I forget. You know what? I've got this on the screen here, so I don't want to. Let's do this first. Let's turn that off first. And then I'll get my profile. My NPub, is that what you're looking for? There we go. Yeah, for those of you that don't know what Nostr is, it's actually quite fantastic. And everyone has it. Like I on Nostr, it's like a decentralized Twitter, as I said, and as you can see, it's here in the back. It's hard to explain if you don't understand the technical details of how the internet works. But the basic idea is, instead of having Twitter with central servers and a guy running it, pressing the button saying you can post this and you can post that, it's a network of relays that connect peer-to-peer with no central server. And the individual relays get to decide what goes through them. So they can filter out spam, they can filter out certain languages, they can be just certain topics. So you can subscribe to a relay that says, we only do financial advice on this one. Another relay we only do porn. So you can say, I don't want that one. Or you might say, I want that one. And so some are free and some are paid, and there's all sorts of options. But since it's decentralized, it's not like Twitter, in which you post and everyone can automatically see what you post. It's lots of small networks like your brain, like the neural network forming. And as you grow your network, you see more things and you grow more things. And as people interact with you, as they follow you and as you follow people, those networks grow and you become more trusted amongst the network. I don't mean your opinion is more trusted. I mean the network trusts you that you're not a spammer or have other malintent. And so it grows organically. And people use the Lightning Network here. This button here, it says, I know you probably can't see this if you're on mobile. It says tip, and you hit that. Well, it does nothing. Oh, I think I've got my security up too high for it to launch anything. Anyway, so that's what that does. It's great, and I suggest everyone go to Nostr. Just Google it. It's hard to get started. You have to get an app in order to use it. And as my buddy Pedro says, he did a great job. He would be Jack Dorsey. He left. Got fired from Twitter. Don Compete says you will not start another service like Twitter. He says, okay, I won't start one like Twitter. I'll start one not like Twitter. And of course, it's getting a bazillion people using it. And it's nice. It's different, but it's nice. And this long address here is the actual address. It's like your wallet address, except it's your profile address. And that address can never be taken away from you. Nobody can say that address can't exist. It's like crypto. Once the address exists, once your profile exists, it's good to go, and you can use it forever. If people start unliking you and unfollowing you, and your network gets smaller because you turn into a spammer, then your profile won't have that big of an impact on anything. And yes, it's DeFi. It's DeFi. It's a Web3 application at its core. In a true sense, people have if you look through LinkedIn, everybody's a Web3 specialist, especially all these people that just get fired from Twitter, or the people just want to pump up their name, and you ask them what's Web3, and it's like, well, it's the next generation of technology and global convolution and consortium, and we're getting together with blockchain stuff. Pay me $10 million. Now, Web3 in essence is applications like Nostr. It's an application that the information relies on the blockchain, exists on the blockchain, and there's no central control that can revoke your access to it or something. You own your own content. If I press delete my content, it's gone. If somebody a data company wants to come in and warehouse it. Actually, I take that back. I don't know the correct answer to deleting your stuff. I might be wrong about that. But anyway, you're in control of your own information. You can say whatever you want. And if you don't want to hear people that say certain things, you just mute those topics or those relays, and boom, you exist in your own little world. Some people like the broad world, some people don't. All right, everyone, give me 1 second while I refill the old tea here, and I will, as they say, be right back. Yeah, well, that was quick enough for a get some tea break. I had to stop drinking coffee. I love coffee. I love it so much. And I had to stop. I just had to stop. And it's terrible. I like coffee. Tea's all right. I drink it without milk. I drink coffee black too, but it's not the same. Tea gets cold in about 3 seconds. Coffee at least takes a couple of, stays nuclear hot for a while. Tea, I just poured it. It's already drinkable. And it was boiling temperature, not 150 degrees like coffee. So these little changes in life, but I gotta tell you, when you go from drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day to none, and tea is almost no caffeine compared to coffee, you sleep a lot better. I used to have to drink a lot of coffee, and then in order to get to sleep, drink a lot of bourbon. Now I drink neither, and I sleep better. It's an amazing combination. All right, before we get to the Binance story and stuff, once again, let's see what's going on in the great world of the crypto sphere. Let's see. Let's enable this. Yeah, the DYOR project tweet striking is live this morning. Tune in for discussion on the crypto news. CZ, Binance. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. What else do we got here? Oh, I'll take this time to talk about last week's AMA with Audit Chain again, and I'll say that because they are my primary sponsor here. I'll skip the long spiel about it. If you listened to me last week, you heard me talk about it at length. But what the important thing to take away from last week's thing was is that their new software that relies on the blockchain to work. It's actually a logic and reasoning engine that's based on blockchain technology that goes through the filings of companies that file with the SEC or the European version or the Canadian version or wherever in 60 jurisdictions of the world and finds errors. And so we were going along doing an example of Silicon Valley Bank. And a viewer sent me a message that says, hey, why don't you do one live instead of one that you've prepared? Why don't you do Tesla? And so we did Tesla on the air. And we came up with the fact that their balance sheet does not balance. Nope. And so you might think, well, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. And we did it in 5 minutes. We didn't have to get a fleet of accountants and analysts from Deloitte or EY or anything like that. It took 120 seconds, right live on my show, and using validator nodes, what we call Pacioli validator nodes, after Luca Pacioli, the inventor, the Venetian inventor of double entry accounting. And it found that Tesla's statements are not correct. Their financial statements are not correct. And if you're a short seller, wouldn't you want to have this information? Like as soon as a company releases its financials, within 2 minutes, you can have a full analysis of their books, whether their calculations are correct. You wouldn't believe how many organizations just calculations are incorrect to the tune of $15 billion. That's a big change. And when you make errors in accounting and money, do they ever go to the positive? No. They always go to the negative for some. Just like your checkbook. When you make an error in your checkbook, is it ever like, honey, we got an extra 10 grand? No. It's always we got 10 grand fewer. So we found this live on the air. And it was amazing. It was simply amazing. And it also found that they didn't disclose a bunch of things. And in doing so, we found that basically 30% of companies, on a small sample scale of the hundreds of thousands of companies that report these things, about 30% don't report correctly and have either confusing numbers, don't add correctly, missing information, all stuff that chief financial officers, auditors, the audit committees, and then the CEO of all missed at some point or another. And some of them are basic, like $15 billion math problems. Anyway, so I have Audit Chain here on the TV, and then the different podcasts running through the TV up here. Go and listen to them. The most recent one, On the Brink, episode 18, is about how their Petroly system works. They have other software that sits on the client side that can help you prepare to release your information. And that's a topic for a whole nother show, but I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, and thank you to Audit Chain for having me host your shows and being involved with that. I want to add that the United States passed a law, the 2022 Financial Data Security Act or something like that, in which any municipality in the United States that issues municipal bonds, which is about 80,000 of them, has to use software, either Audit Chains or similar, not any particular software, that will be able to get them to report electronically so that people can verify the city's financials. And city financials are a disaster. So the market is huge for that. Huge, as I say, huge. Let's see, what is the other... I guess it's time to start talking about this. Olga Karev tweets, crypto has been hit with a regulatory big bang. Regulators are coming for crypto, and even Binance isn't immune. Nobody's immune. The current U.S. government administration is out to get crypto. And it's very interesting. Pedro, if you're still listening, you'll enjoy this. And you probably know this anyway, but I'm going to talk about it for the rest of our viewers, is that the United States government is anti-crypto all of a sudden. And if you listened to my shows last week, you will have heard me summarize how it got that way, and how the lobbying effort started at very low scale in politics, built its way up through to in order to get to the congressional hearing status, which started to influence policy. The administration was in office for some time in order to change administrators in certain regulatory agencies. And thankfully, the administration had both houses of Congress on their side. They're able to hold hearings and beat up crypto and digital assets and say they're worthless, and even culminating in the president's report to Congress last week that said crypto is completely worthless. There's nothing going on. And you can even see the paid shills on LinkedIn saying that it's worthless and that type of stuff. And they just don't have any idea what they're talking about. And you could see that building, and now every agency, the SEC, and now the Commodities Futures Trading Commission is saying, hey, we want part of the pie. But the ironic thing is when the U.S. government is beating up everybody and saying crypto is awful, crypto is awful, crypto is awful, and other countries are saying crypto is great, crypto is great. Come on, come to our country. Switzerland, come here, come here. Europe setting new rules. Come here, come here. The UAE is setting amazing rules. Basically, you can go over there and follow their new clear guidelines and set up shop there to do anything you want that falls within their regulations. And be good. In the U.S., no. Guess who is the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet? Pedro, if you're still listening. Who's the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet? Who is it? Not that one. Not that one. Not that. Oh, I had the article up. Ah, foiled. Foiled. No, the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet is not Diamond. It's the United States government. The United States government, let me get the notes out here. The United States government holds, I honestly can't read my notes. But anyway, they hold Bitcoin because of seizures. Here, they're their three largest seizures, or three of their largest. I don't know if they're three largest. When they seized Silk Road from Dread Pirate Roberts, 70,000 BTC. They recovered the theft of the Bitfinex hack, 94,000 BTC. Another Silk Road hacker, James Song, stole 50,000 BTC from Silk Road, and they got that too. And they've also recovered a lot of the Mt. Gox BTC also. And they're not giving it back. I don't understand how this concept of law works, where a company can get robbed, and the United States, through their law enforcement, finds out who did it and recovers it, and doesn't give it back. I don't get that. I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me, and nobody can explain it well. And they say, well, a precedence of law and blah, 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 blah. And I don't understand. That's right, Pedro, you say. And so the U.S. government is currently the largest holder of Bitcoin. Now, how do these two statements balance, for those of you listening? Bitcoin and digital assets are terrible. They're worthless. There's no future to them. They haven't lived up to their expectations. They're just used for fraud and all that type of stuff. And we're the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet. And we're not selling it. And we're not burning it. And we're not throwing it away. If the administration really believed Bitcoin was worthless, wouldn't they have just said, all right, get rid of this stuff, burn it, throw the wallet away, whatever. It's worthless. Like when the U.S. government confiscates a bunch of scrap material. They can't sell it. It's worthless. They just hire someone to come haul it away. Wouldn't they just get rid of it? No, they are not. No, they are not. They are not just getting rid of it. And why? Why would you say that? Because it's not worthless. The value of what the U.S. government holds is over $5 billion. Billion with a B. I think Michael Saylor owns 100,000 Bitcoin less than them. And Elon Musk, Tesla only owns 10,000 or something like that. So there's a big difference in the owners. So now we have the U.S. government on one hand saying it's terrible, but it owns all this digital asset, and that's just the Bitcoin. They own all sorts of other cryptocurrencies. Uh-oh, my computer's unhappy. They own all sorts of other things too. Let me see if I can minimize the. I've got a super machine here. It still gets me. Anyway, I have this article on the screen in the back here because the U.S. government, via its lobbying efforts, and let me rephrase that, the banking industry regarding its lobbying efforts, it has all these shills out here saying that everything is worthless. And they when you say to them, well, it's revolutionized the micropayments industry, and it's revolutionized the loans against asset industry. And I'm not talking about unsecured loans like a credit card loan. I'm talking about if you have $50,000 in Bitcoin or any currency, digital currency, you can get a loan against it within the space of a block. And if it's Bitcoin block, it's a couple of minutes. And if it's an XLM block, it's a couple of seconds. You don't have to go to a bank. You don't have to apply to it or anything. Anyway, so that's quite the dichotomy of what's going on here. Now I got to figure out why. I'm going to turn this tab off. My frame rate is dropping quickly here. It's not a good sign, ladies and gentlemen. Not a good sign at all. Tell you what, I'm going to minimize this. Oh. As they say, this is a bummer. Anyway, so that leads us finally to what we wanted to talk about today. The Commodities Futures Trading Commission versus I closed that one. Versus Binance. Binance, as we all know, has grown like a juggernaut over the past, I don't know, 7 years they've been around. Hold on, let me try one more thing to get. I'm gonna have to turn Kramer off here. Maybe that'll help. Not so much. Anyway, Binance has become quite the juggernaut, and their two entities, Binance US and Binance International, have become quite large, just like FTX did. But Binance is much larger, much more well established. And it's just the big guy here. And for a long time, if we recall, CZ operated his company as a stateless company. And people say, where are you headquartered? He's like, we're just on the internet. We're not headquartered anywhere. And he got away with that for quite a while. He did get away with that for quite a while. You're right, Pedro. When it comes to the government, it's trying to have BTC backing of the dollar soon. I think they're going to try and at least integrate that so they can control BTC in some way or another. And if you're the biggest whale in it, you control it, whether people like it or not. And it would take the U.S. government about 10 minutes to spin up a network to be the largest validator and miner in Bitcoin. So they could take it if they wanted. A $20 trillion market cap would be very good for Bitcoin. That'd be a 20x from now. So something like that. Oops. And so Binance became quite large, and they were stateless. And everywhere they operated, the country started saying, no, that's not how this is going to work. You can't be stateless. You've got to work within our regulation system. So they established Binance US. They established the Binance International separate from the US because the US is linked with Iran, North Korea, Yemen, certain factions in Libya and Syria, and in Russia on the countries people don't want to do financial transactions with. That's good company we keep, right? Thank you very much, U.S. government, for putting us on that list. And so Binance has been working now to become legitimate in everywhere. And in other countries that Binance has gone into and says, all right, we want to become legitimate. A good example is Switzerland. They went in. Switzerland said, okay, let's set some playing rules for you guys to work in. United Arab Emirates. Okay, what you were doing really wasn't cool before, but let's set some rules and let's work on this industry. What the United States is doing via the Commodities Futures Trading Commission is saying, all right, you're coming in and you're trying to be legitimate. Well, fine. And you have a legitimate U.S. company. Fine. But you were making mistakes before. And instead of saying, let's set some rules and move forward, they said, we're going to prosecute you for making those mistakes before in your new and nascent industry. Now, does anyone think that's fair? When we started crypto, did anyone think that the SEC and all these government agencies had a fine-tooth comb on regulation for it? No. Nobody did. They thought, well, if they evolved a certain ways, then we got to the point, well, those are securities. They need to be registered. And then companies started trying to comply. Then the U.S. government started shutting them down, saying, we don't want you to comply. You're evil. And so now the rest of the world is saying, all right, the industry grew up like in the Wild West. People would shoot people for insulting them and not necessarily get prosecuted for murder. Then they set some level playing fields. Can't shoot people. So the commodities, I'm just going to say the evil U.S. government is telling people you can't do these things. Even if we set level playing ground for you now, we're still going to prosecute you for the past. Just like even if we, I don't have a good analogy for that. Usually I have a good analogy for everything. I don't have a good analogy for that. Speaking of the BTC seizures. Oh, I'm a little behind here in my conversation. But anyway, if you listened to me talk a couple of days ago about how the U.S. government regulatory agents fund themselves, there's a large portion of their funding comes from fines. And the Commodities Futures Trading Commission hasn't been getting as many fines lately because they haven't had a lot of bad actors. Well, they've been watching the SEC earn some big bucks from the banks. Remember, the banks have paid $343 billion in fines in the past 10 years. That's the regular banks. No crypto. That's regular banks. That's more than any other industry in the world that's paid fines. Exxon Valdez? Nope. The BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico? Nope. Your bank? Yes. More fines. Oh, this lack of frame rate is killing me. But anyway. Why is it doing that? Anyway. So the CFTC is saying, all right, we want some of that money because we want a nicer building. We want to hire more people. We want a plush office. And we don't want to have to go to Congress to beg for money. We want to fund it ourselves. And who has the money to fund the CFTC for the near future? Binance. And so the fines that they're going to try to extract out of them are going to be massive. It's going to be a huge thing. In fact, the CFTC, what they're anticipating is that in the next election, the White House will change administrations, and the new administration will come in, appoint a new head to the CFTC. I don't know when the current one expires, and say, we're going to take a different tact. You need to stay off these guys. Just set some regulations for them to operate and let them do their thing, and don't worry about what they did in the past. And just move forward. They won't be able to get fines out of them. So they're trying to do it now and get the money out of them because that way they'll have a nice budget in 2025 and 2026. I'm not putting all of Pedro's conversations up here, but it's good. Yes, the evil U.S. government. U.S. government's very good for a lot of things. Most things they're very good at. Managing crypto, no. Nope. And so the CFTC said, we're going to prosecute Binance. Now, this isn't just a, oh, woe is me, Binance. Look at this evil U.S. government coming after me. They've made plenty of mistakes. And they've made plenty of mistakes not because they're just evil. They made plenty of mistakes because any company that goes from trading out of your college dorm room to a multi-hundred trillion dollar throughput company with billions of dollars in assets in just a few years is basically growing in size and doubling every couple of months. And companies do that. I participated in a company that went from $9 million in sales to $490, $500 million in sales in about 4 years. And I was not an owner of it, don't worry. I would not be doing this if I was. But the company changed every few months. Everyone's roles changed. They're adding people. It was growing like crazy. It was impossible to manage and get a good, accurate figure of what was going on. You were just growing so fast. And that's what happened to Binance. So, of course, they're going to do things wrong. They're going to have bad policies. They're going to slip up. They operate in 200 jurisdictions of the world. They're going to break someone's laws. It's going to happen accidentally. And most countries realize that and say, all right, let's set some level grounds and let's move forward. The U.S. is doing the opposite. They're saying, now you grew too fast and made mistakes. Now we're going to make you pay. Give us your money. You're evil. And frankly, the other thing is that people in the United States government get promoted for big cases like this. They don't get promoted for just doing their job every day. They do it for getting big name cases. It's like prosecutors that prosecute the mafia. When they took down the Italian mafia, those guys got promoted. The people that just, prosecuted the regular gun traffickers and other things and people taking bribes here and there, not so much. The big cases get promoted. Then it moved to terrorism. The guys that promoted the terrorists, prosecuted the terrorist cases, they're getting promoted. And now it's the financial crimes. And the CFTC people say, hey, we want to go for, I want a bigger job and I want to get promoted. So let's figure out how to get a big name case under our belt. So that's where we are. Binance made a lot of mistakes. They're coming out. If my computer wasn't going so slow, I'd go over this. But they made a lot of mistakes, and they made a lot of mistakes on email. For one thing, FTX was one of their biggest customers at one point. And not only that, but Binance owned part of FTX. And FTX was based, while everyone talks about them being in the Bahamas and wherever, and Alameda and California and all that, FTX was actually based here in Chicago. Big office building that they filled a lot of the floors in. None with accountants, I might add. Just people doing stuff. And they have an email from CZ and one of his employees saying, hey, make sure FTX doesn't connect to us from a US IP address. Make sure they use a VPN to get to us. And keep the whole thing on the fly. Big mistake. Big mistake using email, people. That's why they make Signal. Use Signal. Don't use email. I never email anything. It always ends up in public. Someone's servers get hacked. And if I was the head of an evil organization in crypto, of course, that the U.S. government says, you know they're going to be coming after your whole email system. You know they're going to be going after people you emailed who don't have a secure system and taking their email and getting your emails you sent to them. Just once you send an email, it's lifetime. Even on your own little corporate network, there's always a backup somewhere. They'll get it. And you have to give it up in discovery. And so what they're saying is that, Binance operates a futures market. The U.S., see, this is the interesting thing. Binance U.S. doesn't operate all these things. And when you trade currencies, you have to settle through cash. Like in Binance U.S., if you own Ethereum and want to buy Bitcoin, you can't just say trade Ethereum for Bitcoin. So you trade Ethereum for USDT and then USDT to Binance or to Bitcoin. And you can't go coin to coin. And that they do that to force you to settle through a US dollar transaction, so there's an accurate valuation of things and a good paper record of it for tax purposes and for money laundering to make sure we're not scamming the system. And there's no Binance doesn't operate a futures market in the US. At least not in theory, not legally. But as it turns out, what the Commodities Trades Futures, whatever that thing, CFTC is saying is that Binance actually did operate in the U.S. And U.S. citizens use their services. Thus, they are part of our jurisdiction. And they traded securities. And they traded futures. And they traded things that are regulated by the CFTC. And we want to stop that. Whereas there's literally 20 million Americans using these services. And the CFTC is like, you people are evil. You can't do that. We're going to go to the club for lunch. Come on, Jenny. Let's go. So as I say, the war continues. The war continues. I'm going to have to close down a few of my windows here. I determined my browser is using all my memory. Not a good thing. Well, I guess here's the article I was looking for. It's on the wrong browser. Of course. Of course. Mr. It is a horse. And thankfully, BTC BNB didn't get that pummeled by the announcement. I think it's because everyone expects it to happen. Let's see what else we got going on here. Let's look at the Twitch stream really quickly. Getting towards the end of the show. But what I wanted to summarize was that the war continues from the U.S. government. It's just not going to end until the administration changes. Or the Supreme Court rules something is... now I've got a feedback. All right, we don't need that. Pedro, I see your comment about BTC. Prep for it. Prep for the crash or the pump? Let us know what your thoughts are on that. But as I was saying, the war continues. The war continues. It's not getting any nicer. And companies are already planning on how to redirect their efforts to other markets. And like many people say, that's good. They can go to other markets. But if American citizens participate in them, then they're still regulated by the U.S., which is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. I mean, what if every country took that approach? What if every country took that approach? That means if you sold securities in the U.S. to U.S. citizens, but a citizen from Zimbabwe said, oh, I'm going to buy a share of Tom's stock in the U.S., and then the country of Zimbabwe would say, well, Tom didn't file in Zimbabwe, so we're going to sue him. And by the way, we're a member of the we're a member of Interpol, and because Tom didn't respond to that lawsuit, we're going to issue him a red notice. Imagine if every country started doing what the U.S. government does. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Thankfully, currently right now, because the world is centered around U.S. dollars and the U.S. economy is very strong and huge. The BNB prepped for the FTSC. Yes, I believe you're correct. They talked about the last time they were looked at a few years ago. It means the market prepared for it too. Thank you, Pedro. But anyway, I digress. I digress. For those of you joining us now, well, we've been on the air for about an hour talking about a couple of things. One, we started out the day talking about the U.S. Petrodollar versus the Chinese PetroYuan, and how my personal opinion is that the Chinese can go on all they want about working with the Russians to create another reserve currency in the oil business, but it's just not going to happen because nobody trusts dictators. And then for the second half of the show, we've been talking about, talked briefly about our sponsor, Audit Chain, and then we have been talking about the U.S. government's war on crypto via the recent lawsuit that the Commodities Futures Trading Commission has brought against Binance. Got any comments about that? Drop them in the YouTube comments. We're live in the DYOR Telegram room, so if you wanted to come on and talk, you can join me on that. But we're only got a few minutes left in this show, so we're just going to check the great interwebs for some other comments right now. What I'd like to do is go through a little tweets. Twitter is the sinkhole of the world. We all know that. Let's see what comes up. Sometimes it brings the pictures up when I do this. Yeah, it did this time. And I can't pronounce that name. Fiat is screwed. That's why they're after Bitcoin now. That's right. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate that. Binance US, maybe, but Binance Global is offshore. And I disagree with you on that, Ali. Disagree with you completely. The way the U.S. government treats it, as I explained, if one, someone quoted to me, if one speck of dust of their products end up in a U.S. citizen's pocket, then they claim jurisdiction, and the U.S. courts have held that up. And companies that get sued in the U.S. that are foreign companies, they show up because they don't want to be put on the naughty list. And that's how that works. Let's see. Let's see what else is going on in the land of Binance. Let's see if we got any comments from one of my tweets. Let's see. Oh, that's not the right one. Saying get a Binance partnership. I can't find my tweet. Gary says the UK has a problem with Binance too, but then again, we are the United States. Biatch. All right, Gary, thank you for that. Yes, the UK, United Kingdom government does have a problem with Binance, but Binance went to the United Kingdom and said, how can we solve this problem? And the UK said, well, you need to be regulated in this market. And hold on. Come on, coppers. I don't know if you could hear that. Chicago police going by again. It's Chicago. Someone probably got shot. But the United Kingdom said, well, we want to regulate you properly. So what Binance did is they bought a local company in the UK that was already regulated, changed the name on it, and said, now we're Binance. And the government said, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. At least you're operating through a regulated entity. But you didn't, you haven't explained, you haven't given us the information about all these new products and all this type of stuff. And you're doing things that weren't part of this original company's registration. And we're currently not registering all these new products you're doing. So you're still in a little bit of trouble. But the UK ultimately is they're in between, there's Switzerland doing a good job and the UAE and a bunch of other countries. The US doing a terrible job. And the UK is kind of in the middle, but they at least want to work towards being better. The UK has serious banking lobbyists too, and they're fighting that, just like in the US. The US, the banking interests are controlling it. Pedro says, other countries aren't that powerful. That's correct. The OFAC list is a real thing. Absolutely, that is a real thing. The Office of Foreign Assets Control is definitely a real thing. And you don't want to be on that list. And it's one of those lists that you can get on as a foreigner, and you're not allowed to do business with any U.S. citizen. And the U.S. is also starting to say, hey, if you do business in U.S. dollars, that's U.S. government property. And they're starting to really stretch now to prosecute people. Let's see what else we got here. That's not what I wanted to show. Okay, that's not working. Right, once you're on the OFAC list, it's really hard to get off because there is no one responsible for... There's a couple of different groups that can put people on the OFAC list. They can go to Treasury and say, these people have been deemed to be sanctioned or to be evil people, and they're on the list. But there's no single entity to appeal that to, or to say, hey, you got it wrong, or I'm now a good guy, I solved my problems, I'm no longer a Russian oligarch. You're basically on that list forever. It's kind of like me being banned from YouTube advertising by Google within 2 weeks of starting my account because they said I was trying to trick them and violated their policies. When all I did was hit the promote button. Next, when you put a YouTube video up in the creator's profile, it says promote, and I would promote them, and then they banned me for life. Lifetime ban. Not just my account. And you say, all right, I'll start a new account. Your driver's license is associated with it. Your person, your tax information. You can't open another account. As soon as you do, they shut it down. And you're banned for life. Literally, people murder people. Murder. Like, dead. And they're out back on the streets. But you run afoul of the YouTube algorithm. Banned for life. So that's basically OFAC. And there's going to be more and more crypto people on that. And a good example is the Terra guy, Luna Terra, Quan or whatever his name is. his project crashed, and he had to go on the run, and he had a red notice issued for him, and got arrested in handcuffs. Yet, and he was never going to be able to operate in the financial world again on the run. Yet, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, or First Republic, and Silvergate, they all fail. And none of other banks are going to fail. And everyone's going to lose a ton of money. And are those people going to jail? Nope. 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 They are not. They are not. So the war continues. It's a war. Pedro says you can appeal it. Oops. My comment thing's getting a little crazy. Now, see, the comment thing is not dropping frames. It must just be my camera. Anyway, I'm going to look into that and clear up my knowledge about the OFAC. I guess you could always sue the U.S. government. That's always quick. The war continues, and I'm sure we'll have more stories about it this week. It's a damn shame. Literally, the U.S. went from the leader in crypto to being viewed as a place to not do business within a period of about a year. And really, in the past few months, it's got even worse. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Let's see if we can solve this. We're not going to solve this frame rate thing. It's my GoPro camera driver. It's thrown me an error. Anyway, I've had this address above me. Frail Battle 36 at Wallet of Satoshi. Want to toss me some sats? Please do so. If you know what that means, please do so. If you don't know what that means, get with it. Get with it. Start using that Lightning Network to tip people. I'd appreciate that. One of the last things we got here. Let's check the DYOR room here. Missing Crypto Mike this morning. Had him on a couple of days from Manitoba. Let's check the couple other rooms real quick. And then lastly, the old DMs, which I get from people. Most of my Twitter DMs are filled with conversations from strange Russian spam. But I like to leave them open so people can DM me. But you got to put up with the spam too. Yep. Nothing good. You know, I see a message here from our friends down in Australia. The UC Stars rugby team. DYOR sponsored them for a while. I don't know if we currently still sponsor them. Maybe it was just last season. I'll have to find out. But Mike and the guys down there operate the men's and women's semi-professional rugby team. And our stuff is on their shirt. It's pretty cool. And they have award shows, and everyone gets a DYOR award and some tokens and things like that. And I have not covered them yet. I'm going to have to do that one of these days and cover them and show you. I think they even made a calendar. About the rugby team, showing the men and women that were the most valuable players or something like that on their respective teams. Anyway, very interesting. I would love to go down there and cover a game, but the finances do not allow that. Kind of far. Well, social media is kind of quiet this morning, except for the usual Twitter drivel. And so, Pedro, if you've got any last comments, thank you very much for tuning in today. Appreciate it. I'm just poorly organized this morning. Sats equals Satoshi. They are the small parts of BTC. It's like if a dollar and BTC are the same idea, then cents and satoshis, sats, are the same thing. The equivalent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. As of right now, we've got on Friday, we're going to have an announcement from Poodle Token. They've recently bought an exchange of some sort. Don't have it clear on my notes, but Sasha from the Poodle Token will be on. And once again, I had their thing coming up. He'll be on as a guest interview. And then tomorrow, maybe I'll have Pedro on if he's got time in the morning to come on for 5-10 minutes to talk about the markets. With that, ladies and gentlemen, as they say, that's all I got for you. So have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow.